Hey, how's it going everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to be going into a little bit more detail on the Zeus. No, we're not going to cover everything that we basically covered already in the Triton video, and if you haven't seen that video, I'll throw a card up here for you to refer back to that, where we actually cover going into the demonstration mode of the scanner. We briefly talk about guided component tests. We talk about SureTrack. We talk about the ShopStream Connect and what benefits it has to you, not only as a dealer tech, but as an independent tech and as a shop owner. We also went over how to sign up for the Altus Drive. I think we briefly touched base on the fact that you are also going to have to sign up with Mitchell as well, or ShopKey Pro. You are not going to get all the features and benefits from ShopKey Pro in the Zeus, nor will you get it in the Apollo or the Triton. The only real reason why you're creating that account is to share with them the fact that you have either the Apollo, the Triton, or the Zeus. That way you can get all the SureTrack information that you need, which will cover the TSBs and recalls, which are on the Mitchell website or ShopKey Pro. When you sign up for Mitchell, of course, you're going to have to pick a username and password, something that you can remember very easily. Yes, you can save the username. It will not always save the password, so you will have to still log in every time you exit the program. So if I was to exit the program now, of course we'd have to log back into the Altus Drive. I did learn more about the Altus Drive. I spent a great deal of time on the phone with not only Nathan from Polly's Auto, but also with Chad from the Practical Mechanic. I talked a little bit with Kyle, the Rust Belt Mechanic, and I did reach out and briefly talk to in a forum discussion on Facebook with Cody from Cody's Diagnostics some of the issues that I was having leading up to this video, which is why we're going to kind of cover some of the stuff that I talked about with them about with you in this video. So I'm going to bring you in closer now. We're going to cover some of these items that you're not going to find on the Triton or the Apollo, and we're also going to cover some of the items that you will find on the Triton and Apollo. So let's go ahead and bring you on in. All right, covering training and support real briefly. By double tapping this, it's going to bring up the Snap-on Diagnostics webpage forum, which is going to give you all the hot links to all the YouTube videos that they have created for your product. So for the Zeus, you can see we have various modules going all the way down to about 14 different modules that you can review and preview. I strongly recommend going through the different modules on each one of these YouTube videos that they've created to try to get most of the basic questions answered prior to asking your questions in the comments, because they have covered a great deal of information about this tool, setup, etc. In the data manager file, we're going to discuss this for a little bit now. You'll notice that we have a few different folders here. We have one for camera, one for scanner data, vehicle system reports. So if you did a full code scan, it's going to show up there. Not sure what CTM is, we'll find out together. Scope multimeter data folder, so if you had saved any kind of multi-feeder, so if you were doing a contribution test or signature test and you saved that video clip, it should be down there. Screenshots, we're going to cover that a little bit, and then sample files. Sample files probably going to be more like demonstration purposes, but look, so for the camera folder, if I press the Snap-on button here, so if I push the Snap-on button, you can see it gives us a few different options here. We can do a screen capture, we could take a photo with the built-in camera. I'll show you a picture of that now. You can go right to keyboard, so you can start typing stuff in. You can adjust brightness, and then of course you can also go into your Snap-on settings. So for this, we're just going to select the camera, and you're going to see that it basically, so you can see here by the picture that the pixel rating is actually pretty decent quality. So if you wanted to take a picture with your Zeus to save it for your personal files or put it into the Altus Drive for future reference, you can. And overall, I think it looks pretty good. So we'll just go ahead and we'll just take a photo. Okay, it's saved. Okay, we're going to save it. Now we can go ahead and hit exit. So now if we go here to our camera folder, you'll see our picture down here in the bitmap viewer. So if you would have noticed previously we did not have anything down here in the bitmap area. That's because we were not in the folder that has our pictures. So selecting my data at the top brings you back to the home page. We're going to go ahead and go into scanner data now. We should be able to review any of the vehicles that we previously pulled codes on. You can see that I've had the 2009 Nissan, I believe it was a Frontier that I was doing a thermostat on. Customer basically went to AutoZone, had codes pulled, brought us a thermostat, wanted us to replace it. The housing was incorporated in it. We replaced it, but I still wanted to verify that that was in fact what was causing their overheating condition. So I wanted to monitor the electronic coolant temp sensor. Now you can see here, if I highlight any of the PIDs over here off to my left, this is the same exact view that you're going to get on ShopStream Connect with your Triton and Apollo if you were to connect it to your PC. Well, this Zeus is basically its own PC, so this is the way that it views it. Not the most cleanest image. I'd much rather have the same capability on the Zeus that the Triton and Apollo have as far as looking at saved data. Now, if you have the Triton or Apollo, you'll know if you go into save data, it looks almost identical to the actual scan tool data itself when you're plugged into a vehicle. So I would say that that's one shortcoming that I've found so far. Talking with Chad, he actually showed me how to navigate, so you'll see nothing changed here in graph form as I was selecting various PIDs. So say I wanted the electronic coolant temp sensor, nothing happens, right? Over here on the right, there's a bar. So I can actually slide this down, and if you'll notice, over here to my left, there's a gray bar that's been moving down with my finger. So now we're getting pretty close, and now I'm here. So you can see now I should have my electronic coolant temp, nope, not yet. There. So now we're on our electronic coolant temp sensor, and you're gonna see from cold startup to warm up temperature that it recorded the entire graph. I was telling Chad, I believe I was on a road test for anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes when I took this recorded data. So you can see here from cold startup to warm up how it slowly increased in temperature until eventually we got the vehicle to its full operating temperature, and I did not have any overheating issues as a result. So by selecting the vehicle system data report, you'll see that it's already created an Adobe Reader file. And if we scroll down, you're going to see a list of all the readiness monitors that are complete. Plus, you're going to see all the different systems that we scanned and what codes, if any, that were within the vehicle undergoing our code scan. Let's go ahead and go back to my data. All right, so I do not believe I have anything in the scope multimeter data form yet, but let's see what the CTM is. Okay, so I don't have anything saved there. I'm not sure what that folder is. Maybe my guys that have the Zeus that have used the CTM data folder can tell us what that is. Again, I didn't save any data on the scope, but if I wanted to, let's just go ahead and do that real quick to see what it looks like. All right, so I got a little 9-volt battery here. We're just gonna mess with this for a second. So I'm gonna connect the ground. Let me go ahead and just grab one of our snap-on probes here. I really wish they would have made the test lead tip a lot differently than they did, but it's whatever. I would have much rather had something a little finer. All right, 9-volt, here we go. Just gonna do a little quick touch and go. So there we go, off the chart, off the chart. Let's see if we can somehow take it's taking a video recording now. So I don't know if we can do a picture. Collecting snapshot. Okay. And then, so there's our little test. Let's go ahead and back out of this. Oh wait, first let me show you this little trick. All right, so another thing that Chad and I talked about when you're in the 4-channel lab scope or even the digital volt ohm meter on here, okay? If you guys remember the clicking that it was doing, that's the scan tool actually calibrating itself into DVOM form. Now, if you have this unplugged from the power supply here, it's important to note that it's going to drain the hell out of this tool. So something Chad had recommended to me was when you're done utilizing this and you're not planning on going back to it, make sure to always power off. And then you don't have to worry about it. You see, we have no graphical waveforms going on, nothing's being done, and now we are not drawing extra unnecessary power. It's like leaving an app open in the background on your phone. It's just going to absolutely drain it. All right, so how much does the subscription cost? The subscription for Mitchell costs $160 a month for 15 months. Currently, due to the pandemic, they have reduced that cost to $135 a month for a contract of 15 months. After that, then you can move into month to month. Can anybody sign up for ShopKey Pro and pay for it out of pocket if they want to? In a roundabout way, yes. From how it was described to me, or almost, the sales pitch that I was given was basically this. If I go down to O'Reilly's and create a fictitious business account, cash account, maybe for my mobile diagnostic business that I have, that is all the proof that they need to set you up as a shop owner or mobile mechanic owner, and then you can pay for the subscription. Then you're entitled to all the wiring diagrams, repair information, you'll get labor rates, and you'll get part costs, and they'll even factor in your cost versus what the customer's cost is going to be. It'll give you the ability to create your own ROs utilizing their platform, and then, and only then, with certain things that you noticed here where technicians are inputting information that can be submitted. It's one of those things that you'll notice that when you go to log into Snap-on Cloud, and I'll bring you in closer for this, but when you go into the Snap-on Cloud, it's going to ask you if you wanted to share this information to your shop files. Well, if your shop is running ShopKey Pro, then those shop files can be transferred over into that administrative network, because you can have up to like 5 or 6 different computers or devices with the one account. And in that situation, you can share information back and forth between the shop to the front desk, to the manager's office, etc. All right, once logged in, what do you see here? You can see the picture that we took utilizing the integrated camera. You can see the screen capture that we took utilizing the Snap-on S button, and you can see the 2 vehicle reports that we did with the Tiguan. So now all this information is shareable. Of course, you can add one to your favorites. So once you've highlighted the star, it's going to add it to your favorites. So when you come over to your favorites, if you specifically know that you're going to need this image later in the day, you can share it. If you push the little chain button, if it'll let me, we can send it via email, or we can copy it to the clipboard. The clipboard, again, that's going to be something that's incorporated with the ShopKey Pro. And if you have this Altus drive downloaded on your phone, I guess you can also send it through text message, from what I understand. All right, so let's answer some accessory questions first before we go out to our GM and cause problems. What does the Zeus come with? It comes with 2 test lead probes. So we got the red one, we got the black one, a little oversized in my opinion. You get 9 feet of lead-off cable for the oscilloscope that is detachable from the back of the Zeus. So we have this detached now. So on the side here, there's a USB port. It gives you a 9-foot lead-off, so we can plug into the back of our detachable oscilloscope here, and then we can run that out and away from the vehicle so as not to get fluids on anything or accidentally drop this down in the engine bay and crack a screen. Chad, I'm sorry, that sucked to hear that, man. And I know that Nathan also had an issue with a cracked screen. I don't mean to laugh, because I know that I would cry if I had to come up with the money to pay for this screen. But at any rate, they do give you a 9-foot lead off. Now, I was told, and I did take a picture of this and share it with our Facebook group, by Snap-on Diagnostics, that this auxiliary or VGA port was not good for anything. It was an accident, it was a mistake, they don't use it. Well, that piece of information was wrong and very misleading, and I would have typically ran with that, not knowing any better and not have really talking to too many people about it. Now, I've talked to about 10 different diagnosticians, anyone that has it at the shop level, to anyone that's personally bought it, to anyone that uses that solely day in and day out, knows this thing inside and out. And I believe it was Cody from Cody's Diagnostics, might have even been Chad, that had said, no man, that, maybe Nathan too. Look, I talked to a lot of guys about this, but this VGA cable auxiliary port is very important. It actually is for the pressure transducer that you can get, so that way you can actually take a pressure measurement. And I asked how often that would be important or relevant. Chad had given me the example that in some situations you want to see just how low oil pressure can go, and on some mechanical gauges they may only go down to 10, where you might still have pressure just below that, and it may even still be within an acceptable range. So that would be the purpose of having a pressure transducer. The second purpose would be just simply taking a screen capture shot like we did earlier, so that way you could save it to your files and then share it with the shop files and then give it to the customer, etc. And it may be extremely beneficial for those that have to go through warranty. Chad did mention that too, because I remember warranty department wants picture proof of everything, which is why a cell phone is like your next best friend at the shop. You do get 4 sets of different scope test leads, which I've also been told is not the most popular amongst the diagnosticians out there. There's actually a test lead set that's better, that's basically almost like an all-in-one. They all 4 can plug in, and then you've only got one constant ground instead of having to piggyback all your grounds off of. My diagnostician guys out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that the reason why channel 3 and channel 4 test leads do not come with a common ground is because so long as you have channel 1 and channel 2, which share grounds from piggybacking, you should be good to go. But there is a test lead set out there, and I can't remember if it was Jay, if it was Cody, or if it was Chad, or even Nathan, might have been Cody, that they had shared a link to a test lead set that's far superior and has longer lead offs than the ones that Snap-on give you. They do give you clamps for each and every single one. This one's a bit dirty. I was having a cam crank correlation issue on Friday. I discovered that I was actually getting my 12 volt ref. I was getting my PCM ground as well, and I was getting something on the signal side, but when I did a signature test, it was all over the place, and every time I moved the pigtail, my signature was just erratic. So I believe that was the issue. The job was then passed off to the diagnostician at the shop for him to further investigate, etc. Can you attach other probes not associated from Snap-on onto the test lead set? Yes, you can. So these are made by Tool Aid. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have seen these before. Once upon a time, it's a 20-piece back pin probe kit. They give you some straights, some 45s, and some 90 degrees. They are okay. I do not mind them, but they are not my most preferred. Main reason being is because sometimes I really have to try to force that in there because there's such a tight fit between the weather pack and the insulation that it actually will bend the needle of the probe before I can even make contact. And you got to make sure you make contact, otherwise you'll be like, oh no, I've got an issue, I've got no reading. Well, all the while you just didn't have it probed right. And then of course we do have some other alligator hang-offs, so if you're really tucked underneath an intake or down below and have to come up top, it makes it nicer to use the cheap stuff versus using your expensive test lead set. I do prefer the ones that AES Wave sells. I actually ordered 2 packs of them because I think I gave the last pack I had away with the Vantage Ultra when I had sold it. Chad was saying you go through those things about once a month if you're doing diag all the time. I could definitely see why. My boss has definitely gone through a fair amount himself. They also gave us a USB to micro USB cable. My curiosity is what for? I have not read the manual, nor have I seen it in any of the training modules that Snap-on has. I'd have to go back and reread that. If you guys know what the USB to micro USB is, please put it down in the comments. My thoughts are that it's for the firmware installation and that's solely it, because I do recall Garrett having this plugged in from the tool onto his computer, so maybe that's all this is truly meant for. All right, I'm gonna go out to my GMC truck now and I'm gonna sabotage it. And I wanna show you guys something interesting that you might actually like or find useful down the road. So let's go F shit up, shall we? All right guys, so for all intensive purposes, I have sabotaged my 2013 GMC Sierra. The customer's complaint is that it has a misfire. It feels like it has a misfire. Check engine lights on. They would like us to diagnose it. The issues that I'm getting ready to share with you now are issues that I've seen on at least 2 or 3 dozen GM products that have come in, not only at the dealership that I worked at, but also the independent shop. I'm not sure why this happens, why GM hasn't done something to separate this circuit from one another, but I'm going to show you an issue that you might run into when you're getting ready to pull codes on a GM product. So let's go ahead and do it. Okay, customers complain of a misfire. Let's go ahead and start it up and verify, right? So I have intentionally disabled cylinder number 1 by disconnecting the electrical connector going towards the coil pack. So I'm going to start it up. Let's see if we can't throw a miss. Sometimes it takes a couple of key cycles. So I do not have a check engine light, but I can feel the misfire. I already know what I did, but we're pretending that I don't. All right, so let's go ahead and plug in the scan tool and check misfire data and see if any one of our misfire counters are going off, shall we? This thing does come with a built-in LED light. And again, if it's flashing from blue to green, it is trying to communicate. If it is a solid green, then we have power, but we need to turn the tool on so that way we can open up the communication. Okay, so the key is on, the engine is off. Uh-oh. We don't have any power going to our DLC connector. All right, so we have our dongle plugged in. We should be connecting to the scan tool, but we have no power now going down to the DLC. This is the issue that's most common on these GM vehicles. I'm not sure why. Let me go take you up front and show you. Okay, so now we're under the hood. We're on our fuse panel. On this 2013 GMC Sierra and many other GM products, if you look for your, that's going to say cigarette, lighter, and in my situation, it'll say one of 2 things, either CIG or LTR. That's basically, they're just acronyming a cigarette or a lighter, okay? In my case, the acronym is LTR for lighter, which means I'm not gonna get any voltage going towards the cell phone charging port. Sometimes customers will come in and complain that their cell phone is no longer charging in their GM vehicle, and this becomes the issue. Other times, customers will come in with their GM product and have a check engine light, but we have no power, no way of communicating through the DLC because there's no power getting to it, and the power, for some reason or another, without using a wiring diagram or anything, is integrated in with the auxiliary power in the inside of the car, and this 20 amp fuse runs both circuits. It runs the auxiliary power, and it also runs the power going to our DLC. So we would not be able to communicate with any of the modules, to include the ECM or anything else, to find out where our misfire is because we have no power going to the DLC. So if you go into the hood, pop the fuse panel, find your fuse, check it out, it's most likely going to be blown. Now I'll take a picture and put it down here, show you the location, but you can see the amount of dust that accumulates under here in the power distribution center. I find this to be part of the problem, okay? So every once in a while, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to take a blowgun and dust it off. Okay, so our fuse is now installed. I know which coil I disabled, but you don't. So let's go ahead and go back inside. We'll take a look at our misfire counters and see if it's counting the misfires to the cylinder that I've basically deactivated, and we'll just see if it's detecting it even though it has not thrown a code yet. All right, same ordeal, but now our fuse is installed. There she goes. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our scanner here. Continue. Let's just do a code scan anyways. Even though we do not have a check engine light yet, let's see if it's analyzed anything. There we go. So it did, but so it pulled a P0351 ignition coil 1 circuit. Test failed since DTC cleared. See, I never cleared it. Passenger control, short circuit battery, okay, whatever. HVAC codes, temperature control feedback circuit. That's history. And this one right here is diagnosed. Okay, so we got a problem with our ignition coil number 1. So at least it showed it to us. And we have it saved. So let's go ahead and let's go to engine. Let's go to our, should be underneath generic functions. And we're going to go to, where's our misfire data? Am I missing it here? Okay, so maybe it's not under there. Data display. Oh, it's okay. It's in a different. See, I'm used to going into generic functions and then going underneath misfire data. And this one, it'll actually just give us the misfire data. Okay, so hone in here on number 1. I'm going to drop the graph down so you can see. And let's start this truck. So you can see in graph form what an open does. That counter just keeps on going. Let's take a look and see what it looks like in scope format. So incredibly difficult to show here, but green is plugged in, yellow is not. Let's go back. All right, so now I'm in the lab scope. You can clearly see something going on here. And green is kind of staying steady and consistent all the way across. So let's see what happens to the yellow when I plug it back in. Okay, I have plugged it back in and it's still doing that. I wonder if I have to turn off the truck and start it again. Oh, and now I have a check engine light. Look at all that stuff going on. Okay, I have cycled the key off and on. And it's still erratic. I wonder if I have to clear codes first. And whatever I did, I certainly made this truck mad at me. Maybe it was for running it too long with the electrical connector disconnected. Maybe I got to clear out maybe the cylinder's washed. All right, so that took just under a minute to reset. Let's go home. Let's cycle the key off now and restart it. I definitely pissed it off somehow. Let's try out this probe a little bit here. That's 12. I should be in the purple wire. There. Well, whatever that was, I'm pretty sure I pissed off my truck. I think it was even still had a little bit of a misfire once I was even done plugging everything back in, clearing codes, etc. My guess is because I was sending fuel to a dead cylinder, and I'm sure I washed that cylinder out, so I'm sure it's gonna have to sit overnight, you know, that way it can basically dry out and leak down into the oil pan and whatever. But isn't it interesting just playing with the scope portion itself, especially trying to refamiliarize myself with things that I have not familiarized myself with in quite some time. That is not what I would expect to see out of a coil ramp signature test, okay? That is, for that, you would have to adjust your time frame, your peak detect, and I have not refamiliarized myself with that capability to have zoomed in for you. It's not like a cell phone where you just pinch and zoom in. You actually have to set the time, the amount of voltage you're looking for, etc., in order for it to get as close as it possibly can get. This is one of those features that I have heard minute complaints from those that have been utilizing Snap-on diagnostics for a while, is that the zoom capability on something like the Altel or Pico is so far more advanced. No. Was it a bad connection on my end at the connector itself? Was it the fact that the ECM finally picked up the misfire and decided to throw the code? Was it because the cylinder was still washed and even with it connected was still throwing a miss and giving us an erratic display pattern? It could be a mixture of all those. We were effing with shit. So that being said, weird stuff was bound to be seen. Thanks as always for watching my channel. We're gonna get more Q&A done as time progresses. I'm sure I still have a bunch of questions. Again, if you are interested in joining the Snap-on Diagnostics group, you can head over there. I've put the link on the home page. I have tested it out. It should send you right there. If you're still having issues, I'm not sure, you might check your account settings, because you have to actually have a Facebook account, which has to be legitimized. And then once you answer the questions, an administrative rep, myself or Nathan, will approve you to join the group. The questions are just basically giving us an idea of where your starting point is. I know where my starting point is. Nathan knows where my starting point is. I've been doing it long enough to where I feel comfortable with certain aspects of the scan tool, but there's more advanced features that I'm still trying to learn that I'm asking him questions about. So don't be afraid to say, I'm relatively new at this. I just bought the Zeus as well, and I don't know a whole bunch about it. We're going to answer some more questions when it comes to the Snap-on diagnostic platform, Apollo, Triton, Zeus, etc. And now knowing that the information isn't always solid from Snap-on Diagnostics, please feel free to ask any of us, myself, Chad, Nathan, Cody, or Jay, or anyone else in the group, your questions when it comes to the Snap-on Diagnostic tablet that you chose. And maybe we can get you some more clear and more precise answers like I've gotten within the last few days. These guys are a great group of guys, okay? They got a lot of good information. I think this is really gonna be helpful for a lot of us. So that's all I got. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers and deuces.